Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire with today's fantasy football, NFL news and notes, and fantasy reaction. Terrible news for Tim Patrick. Great player, great guy. He hurt his ACL today, tore his ACL. He'll be out for the season. Terrible news for him. He was a player I was recently targeting in drafts. 9th, 10th round. 9th round was, sometimes where you had to go to get him. But he was really going to be setting up well as an outside receiver for Russell Wilson. I was super excited about Tim Patrick's season. But now that he's out, we have to deal with the fantasy fallout. This is how I break it down. And you've heard me talk about Cortland Sutton before. I believed all along Cortland Sutton was a perfect skill set match for Russell Wilson. He doesn't have deep speed, but he can get open deep. He can run most of the route tree. He is an alpha receiver. Now, look, he hurt his ACL 2 years ago. Last year, he tried to come back. The quarterback play was horrible. They were not getting the ball in contested catch situations. He was unable to thrive. Cortland Sutton was not the problem, okay? Russell Wilson has always been able to extend plays, get the ball downfield. Sutton is very good at that, but Wilson also throws well to the outside receivers. So to me, that's why Sutton is your perfect skill set match. So that doesn't change. The only thing that does change, Tim Patrick. So I expected Tim Patrick to, especially in 3 receiver sets, hold down an outside receiver role. He is a very good downfield presence. So I think we'll see an increase of those perimeter downfield passes to Cortland Sutton. Now, I don't think there's going to be a ton more. I think there's a tick more. And I've been very high on Sutton, so I can't move him up my draft board any higher than I have him. But here's how I frame the rest of this. I was a little concerned about Jerry Jeudy because I felt with Patrick, Jeudy would have to move to the slot. I just felt that was the best stylistic fit for all of them. And Russell Wilson, look, I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. But if you remember him over the years, Tyler Lockett especially, how was that slot receiver effective? It was over the top to the slot receiver. It wasn't in the short to intermediate area. I personally feel that Russell Wilson's height keeps him from having a lot of sustained success in the short and middle area of the middle of the field. So he goes over the top. He's good on the perimeters. And so basically Jerry Jeudy, I thought was going to play a lot of slot. So I had him downgraded. But with Tim Patrick out, here's the thing. Their next 2 receivers on the depth chart are KJ Hamler and Kendall Hinton. I don't believe Hinton is any threat whatsoever to regular playing time. KJ Hamler is apparently healthy from the ACL that cost him last season. So now KJ Hamler, he has to be a slot guy. And so now that puts Jerry Jeudy in a full-time outside receiver role. Now wheels back up on Jerry Jeudy. I think this gives Russell Wilson 2 outstanding outside targets. And now let's flip the role. Jeudy to me was not going to be a great downfield threat in the slot. So I think that would have hurt him. But now KJ Hamler in the slot, explosive speed. With the defenses having to worry about Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, I believe that KJ Hamler is going to have a number of really big weeks. This is a perfect situation for him to thrive. So in terms, he wasn't being drafted in most leagues. Few leagues he was. KJ Hamler right now, I think you may need to get him in the 11th or 12th round. I'm not sure where ADP is going to fall on him, but I think he is a player you want to target. And I think overall, Russell Wilson, who I had a little bit lower than most receiver, because again, the way I felt the offense would integrate was not to his absolute strengths. Now, this said, I believe this offense is configured perfectly for his strengths. So I can see Russell Wilson now easily finishing as a top 8 or 9 quarterback. So I will move him up my draft board. The next player, Irv Smith. We know Smith lost the entire last season to a knee injury, a meniscus. And so he was in training camp, getting ready to do well. He broke his thumb. He had surgery on it Tuesday, which as of this recording, if you're listening now is now, but if you're listening later, it was Tuesday. It was August 2nd. So now the thumb injury, it will sideline him for the regular season. He was expected, it'll sideline him for the preseason. He is expected to be back and ready for week 1. So if he's there, I think you'll get a little discount on him in drafts right now, but I think that if you are targeting him, I don't think that you will shy away from. I think you keep him where you had him. The missed reps in the new offense could be problematic. We're a little concerned about that. But other than that, I think you just keep rolling on Irv Smith if you targeted him. If you didn't, then the missed reps keep you shying away from him. Next player up is Jamal Williams of the Lions. So he is seeing first-team reps with DeAndre Swift. That's not really a surprise to us. Last year was a little bit of the same. They both bring a little something different to the team. DeAndre Swift has had injury problems since college. in through his NFL career. Jamal Williams, however, gives him a physical presence between the tackles, a solid blocker on passing downs, a good receiver. Now, Swift is a dynamic receiver. We understand that he's the primary receiver, but the team will not shy away from using Jamal Williams at times. I don't think this is anything like a 70-30. I think this is more like a 55-45, but I think DeAndre Swift gets the higher leverage snaps. So what we have to look at there is Swift is getting drafted as maybe a top 16 player or so. I think you don't really change your stance on him much, but I do think if you forgot about Jamal Williams and thought that Swift would just take over the role, I think you need to at least consider that. I do have Swift a little lower on my board than most. I would draft him in the later second round. He'll never get there, but that's my opinion. Jamal Williams will be involved. Coaches love him. He does everything right, and he's the type of player it's hard to keep off the field. James Robinson is up next from the Jaguars, so we know he blew out his Achilles last year. Well, he is taking passing down reps in training camp. Travis Etienne, we love him, dynamic skill set. But based on what I heard from their beat writer, one of their beat writers, I think Etienne is a great fit for first and second down. But he's smallish. I know size-wise he fits well for the NFL, but in terms of pass blocking, and I know college is different, that was not his calling card. James Robinson, even if he loses explosiveness from the Achilles injury, he will get in there and pass block, and that's what they need to keep Trevor Lawrence healthy and to keep their franchise quarterback upright. So I am expecting James Robinson to have a significant role on passing downs. So those who are drafting Travis Etienne to be a 3-down player and full receiving back, I think there are concerns there. If you believe it, go with it. But otherwise, I do believe that he is going to see a lot of early down work. I think Robinson will be mixing at the goal line as well. They'll both get goal line work. But I think, again, that receiving work, I think a lot of that's going to go to Robinson. We'll see how that shakes out. And love Etienne as a player. But James Robinson has earned a lot of credibility with his time with the team. Now, I know it's a different coaching staff, but still, the locker room knows what James Robinson brings to the table. Alvin Kamara is next. We talked about him yesterday. Well, his court date was supposed to be yesterday, bumped up to September 29th. That's a tricky date. It could continue to keep getting pushed. However, if it doesn't, fantasy managers who are drafting him, the problem becomes if the NFL enacts discipline, if that case is solved on the 29th, you're going to have discipline in season, and that could be a problem. Again, I'm not going to call the legal part of this, but there was tape of him hitting somebody. Could be a pretty significant suspension. We don't know. But anyway, your risk aversion will decide where you're drafting Alvin Kamara. Just remember last year, his yards per carry were a career low. His carries were an all-time high. He missed 5 games, I believe, due to the wear and tear. He's not going to see the same receiving work he did with Drew Brees as we saw last year. So again, based on where you're drafting him, understand, I don't think this is an optimal situation for him. I think they'll have to overuse him, and I don't think that he'll be able to hold up because remember, Sean Payton always held back Kamara snaps, and I believe that was why. 2 players left. Darrell Henderson. So, look, I'm a Cam Akers guy, and we know that Cam Akers has been getting a lot of buzz in camp. However, let's not forget Darrell Henderson. He's taking first-team reps, splitting them with Akers. Now, we've heard Sean McVay say that he didn't necessarily want Henderson always on the field because he doesn't trust him to stay healthy. However, if they're splitting reps, we don't know what the actual story here is. Just if you're drafting Akers, know this. Henderson may be more involved than you want to have him be. So be open to understanding. Akers may not get the full workload. Now, if we go back to 2020 at the end of the season, when Akers was healthy, he was getting almost all the work, and Henderson was relegated to the bench. And that may be the case. And I'm more likely to think that than not, but I don't want to give fantasy managers information that gives them a situation that's not there. I want them to understand there is risk of Henderson getting some work. Finally, the last one. Noah Brown has not been drafted in most fantasy leagues, but with James Washington down for 6 to 10 weeks with the fracture in his foot, and Michael Gallup uncertain for the beginning of the season, we already know right now it's looking like we're pretty safe. CeeDee Lamb number 1. Looks like Jalen Tolbert has a great chance to walk in as number 2, but they're going to need a number 3. Noah Brown could be that guy early in the season, and we don't know what Washington and Gallup's prognosis will be longer term. So if you're spending a later draft pick, he could be an upside pick in a Dak Prescott offense. All right, that's it for today. We'll be back next time. Everybody have a great day.